Hey there, everyone. Let's just pretend we're right in class. I know that there are a number of tools that are available to me, and I'm learning a lot of those. But at the same time, I also, at least today, feel that the best way to proceed is to use what is best, what is most familiar. And since this format is really the most familiar format, we'll just pretend that we're all in class together. I imagine over the next couple weeks, I'll switch to different forms of technology such as Zoom, and I'll be embedding YouTube and things like that. But for now, I just want to be in class with you. So hello. I hope that you had a really good spring break before the whole world tilted on its axis. And I know it's been a really interesting time, for lack of a better word. But today, we're here together. So let's just talk a little bit about the content that I would have been talking about in class the first day back before our midterm, which, by the way, will probably be pushed to a much later date. But as we get more information, I will be clearer on that. So today I'd really like to talk about persuasive speaking as it differs from informative speaking. And it differs in 6 different ways. I want to cover what those 6 ways are, and also then want to talk about the major phases of persuasion. And then my desire is for you to answer the discussion question that will be posted online. And your answering that discussion question will result in points for both attendance and also points toward at least one of the speeches that won't be able to be given in class. So let's begin. So persuasive speaking differs from informative speaking, like I said, in 6 different ways. The first way is that it provides a choice between options. So whereas an informative speech, you're really being told about something, you're being given information, you get a choice between options with persuasive speaking because the information that's being shared might actually change your behavior. And so you have options. It might change your behavior, it might change your belief system or the way you view the world. And so therefore you have options before you. The second way is it really requires the commitment of listeners. A listener can't just be passively receiving the information, especially since it's possible that the person might actually change. And so there's a lot of thought that needs to go into that. Is this information true? Is it valuable? Will it help my life? Will it change me in a way that I find either positive or negative? And so the listener really needs to be highly committed. Which kind of leads me to my third point, in that the speaker must be scrupulously ethical. Now, in these really strange times, we know that there are persuasive speakers who don't really fit that criteria whatsoever. They might lie on a regular basis, and in fact, a lot of people who try to persuade us on a daily basis might be considered, if you really think about it, not very ethical. For instance, do some of the stars use the products that they're persuading us or being paid by persuaders to use? Probably not. But are they ethical? If you're going to change your behavior, if you're going to change your buying patterns, if you're going to change your belief systems, Can I trust the person who is persuading me? That's a question we all need to ask before making that decision. Along those same lines, number 4, the speaker really acts as a leader. So the person who is the persuader is essentially the leader in the message that's being put out there. And so, again, can we trust that person? Is that person a leader in our lives? What is it that makes us think that we can trust them? What is it about them that makes us believe that this is someone that we want to influence our lives? And by the way, I mean, it doesn't have to be, Pope Francis. It can be, it can be another classmate in class who presents things to us that makes us go, this person really is a leader. I can trust them, and maybe even change the way we function. In years past, for instance, I've heard the speech about why to eat deer instead of cow. And heard that persuasive message from a fellow student who was a hunter. It was very persuasive enough so that the next time it was deer season, that I asked one of my friends to please get a deer for me, and I paid to get it processed. And for a year, we ate in our family deer instead of cow, until my kids realized that Bambi was in the refrigerator instead of moo cow, and so that didn't go very well. And so we switched back, but that student that day really was a leader, because he changed the way my entire family ate for a whole year, and changed my thinking as well. Fourth, there is a dependence on arousing emotion. Now, we all know that some persuaders take that too far, and we can think of specific instances where the crowd was really riled up and was highly persuaded, but maybe there wasn't a lot of content there. I can tell you, as someone who has been around churches for a long time, sometimes I can go away from a persuasive message, or I can go away from a rally where people were really upset. They were really not upset, but just they were really engaged and really, emotionally involved and so on. And I've gone away from that going, wow, we all were really emotional, but why were we so emotional? What was their content there? And I have to admit that there have been times when I've gone away from those settings, realizing that, we were all really into it, but the content really wasn't there. And that's kind of a scary thing when you think, wow, this person could have a lot of control, and did have so much control to arouse emotion, but it might just be like emotion for emotion's sake. However, when we are persuaded, our emotions do need to be tapped. There needs to be some kind of a need that our emotions, that the persuasive message is meeting in us, so that we can change our behavior or our motives or our thoughts or our belief system. And so emotion must be connected to that. And then finally, a persuasive message to be effective means that the message is directed to groups instead of individuals. So in the idea that it has to be a group versus individual, when you're getting an informative message, it's just one person learning something, one person learning something, one person learning something. But in a persuasive message, we're really talking about whole groups of people being moved, whole groups of people being changed and maybe reformed or thinking differently or behaving different in order for movements to happen. And when I talk about movements, I'm not just talking about, huge things like spiritual things or even social action, but I might be even talking about who buys Taco Bell or who buys coffee down at a certain coffee shop. It has to be to groups in order for it to be effective, because otherwise people will not be persuaded. So, okay, so this kind of concludes this segment right here, which is again the way that persuasive messages differ from informative message. Our next segment has to do with the 4 phases of persuasion, and I will be starting that in a little bit.